So in terms of adoption, it seems like they're the most curious, mostly because in terms of population, you have 15 million millennials, and it's the most educated generation in the history of all of Africa, and it's quickly becoming the most traveled as well. Because South Africans come home, they do travel, apparently 8 million of them did, and they're coming back home. And so you have an informed population. So they're recognizing in terms of global events and things that are happening and social issues, sort of what's necessary or what's needed to happen. So millennials are a key portion of this, and we have educated millennials that care about social equality. You have a powerful instrument. These millennials are not the ones that fought for the social equality of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They grew up with that problem being solved. They're going on to the next step, is how can we use technology, which they grew up with, and apply it to fill in the missing pieces, the gaps. And what IoT does is it's a cheap way of measuring ways or measuring things that you can't normally get to more inform actors about what needs to happen in a space, how many things are on a shelf, how long it takes to manufacture, how much water is available, what's happening in agriculture in terms of water absorption or crops, or how many hippopotamuses are going to run through and eat all the tomatoes. So IoT is an informing way of inexpensively building a data fabric that allows us to do something like data-driven design. And so South Africa, because you're kind of compartmented between a number of large cities, especially Joburg, where you have so much technology going on here, I think that in some ways you're absolutely a competitor, and in some ways you're more informed than many other nations, because some of the things that's haunted cultures for the last century have often been are being addressed or have already been addressed here. And by having conferences like this, which we've had the last few days, are really quite powerful, because I don't know of any place that's having conferences where they're putting OT people, factory people, people working in mines and manufacturing in the same room with IT people, and letting them share sort of this mesh of culture and ideas about what can happen with data-driven, what's happening with agility and cost and value, and how to inform the executives so that it's no longer just global events and drivers forming stock or traditional business process. It's now data that's informing strategy and the capabilities they need, the human systems and machines and the services that are required in order to do that work. I've gotten a certain sense of optimism by being here, just because of the mix of colors, personalities, and education in the rooms, and that this is not just one group of people. This is a national effort. I think there's a consensus around this. So I think that South Africa is, as I've said this before, it's more than just a player. They're an interesting force to contend with. I hope to see things like brands, national brands like South African Data Driven, or perhaps a South African entrepreneurial citizenship model where foreigners can help invest in South African companies doing this kind of high-tech work and residing in other places, and using local resources to, as you are going through the struggle of moving people from traditional industrial jobs into things like sustainability modeling, or water management, or solar production, where you have other industries like there's 60,000 unionized coal workers that need to have jobs and take care of their families, and sort of folding that into a future state. So again, I'm optimistic, and I think that you're one of the leaders.